Welcome to Thames Oilport, a joint venture between Greenergy, Shell and Vopak, managed by Vopak. Please pay attention during this contractor safety induction. This induction provides the information required to ensure your safety on site. This video will take approximately 30 minutes, after which you'll be given a short written test. You must score above 80% or you will have to resit this video. If you have any questions or require further information, please discuss it with your site host. You are currently in the security gatehouse. Go through the turnstile. The central control building is ahead on the right. The permit office is on the right a short way up. Thames Oilport is a bulk liquid storage and distribution terminal. It's rated as a top-tier COMA, that's Control of Major Accidents and Hazards site. This means we store large quantities of highly flammable and toxic products on site. These products have the potential to cause serious damage and harm to people and the environment. The hazards associated with these products must therefore be carefully controlled. This site is also a bonded installation and contains products on which duty hasn't yet been paid. Therefore, no cans or containers containing fuel may be taken off-site. Due to the flammable nature of products on site, sources of ignition are strictly controlled. You are not permitted to bring lighters, matches, mobile phones, personal electronic devices such as MP3 players, electronic car keys, etc. on site. They must be left behind in your cars or at security before entering the site. Smoking is only permitted in the designated safe areas which are clearly marked. Laptops and cameras may only be used as instructed on the associated permit to work. All portable electrical equipment must display a valid portable appliance testing label and must be identified on the associated permit to work. Firearms and weapons are strictly prohibited on site. The use and possession of drugs and alcohol are strictly prohibited. Random drug and alcohol testing may be carried out. If found under the influence, you will not be allowed access to the site. If you are taking any prescribed medication, please inform your site host. This site is covered by 24-hour CCTV surveillance. The cameras are monitored by security from the security office. Recordings may be used as evidence in the event of an incident. Vehicles and persons on site may be searched. Before you begin work on the site, you must familiarize yourself with the Vopak fundamentals on safety. These are the minimum requirements you must comply with when on site. The safety information on the product or products you are working with must be available and known. The appropriate personal protective equipment must be prescribed and worn. The transport medium, pipeline, container, vehicles, etc. must be appropriately grounded. Any temporary and permanent change to systems, procedures, equipment, etc. cannot proceed unless a management of change process has been completed. This includes a risk assessment that covers all impacted by the change, a work plan that clearly specifies timescale for the change, and control measures to be implemented. No work can be carried out by contractors unless they have read, understood and signed onto a valid permit. This includes all hot work and confined space entry. The permit will describe the scope of work, a job-specific method statement and risk assessment, identify the associated hazards and assess the risks, prescribe control measures to eliminate or mitigate the hazards, link the work to other related work permits and/or operations that may impact the work, ensure work is authorized by a responsible person, ensure a safe return to normal operations. You will require further training on the permit to work system if you are going to be the permit acceptor or performer. You must stop all work and contact your Vopak host if the conditions on site change, the scope of work changes. Isolations of systems, process, mechanical, electrical, must ensure the stored energy is discharged. For example, trapped pressure has been vented from pipelines or electrical charges have been discharged from the system. A system of locks and tags is in place at isolation points. The isolation has been tested and proved. The effectiveness of the isolation is periodically monitored. If the work you are carrying out requires you to put on your own isolations, you will need to demonstrate adequate training in lockout, tagout systems. Entry into confined spaces cannot proceed unless you have a valid permit, and the following conditions are satisfied. The confined space is isolated, the atmosphere has been tested and is continuously monitored during the work. A standby man is stationed nearby with the proper means of communication. Rescue plan and equipment is in place. Working at heights cannot proceed unless a fixed platform with guards or handrails has been erected, verified and approved by a competent person. Always check a scaff tag on a scaffold structure before using it. Where fixed platforms are not a practical option, other systems which prevent falls can be considered. Fall arrest systems cannot be used by anyone not suitably instructed and trained in their use. Excavation activities cannot proceed unless all underground hazards, pipelines, electrical cables, etc. have been identified, located, and when necessary, isolated. Ground movement has been controlled with appropriate shoring and sloping in place to prevent collapse. Ground and environmental conditions are continuously monitored for change. Vehicles may only be used if identified on the work permit. Only diesel vehicles may be used on site. A seatbelt must be worn at all times. Vehicles must be left where they do not obstruct traffic. The highway code is applicable on site. The site speed limit is 15 miles an hour on site roads. Delivery vehicles must be escorted to and from work areas. Personal protective equipment is the last line of defense to prevent contact with toxic or hazardous chemicals. The level of PPE is dependent on the risk assessment carried out for your task. It will be specified on your permit to work, and you must discuss requirements with your host before entering the work area. As a minimum, you must wear anti-static overalls, anti-static boots, hard hat, light eye protection, gloves, anti-static flame-retardant yellow high-vis jacket. You must always ensure your arms and legs are covered when on site. Additional task-related PPE may be required based on your risk assessment. This may include hearing protection, respirators, chemical suits. Some areas of the plant pose the risk of exposure with highly toxic hydrogen sulfide gas. When working in these areas, you must carry hydrogen sulfide monitors and respirators. If the monitor alarms, you must fit the respirator and leave the area immediately. You must always carry a radio when working on site.
Radio test.
Any loan working must be approved by the permit authorizer and will only be permitted if adequate means of contact are established. Never enter an area unless you have a valid authorized permit. No food or drink must be taken on site due to the potential of contamination with chemicals. This includes sweets and gums. Ensure you've thoroughly washed your hands before eating, drinking, or using the toilet. You cannot work on live, energized systems without a valid work permit. Use of electrical tools on site is restricted to 110-volt equipment. These must be suitable for the area they are being used in accordance with ATEX standards. They must be in good working order and must display a valid portable appliance test. Non-flameproof equipment can only be used with a valid permit. There are some areas where asbestos lagging is still present. Color coding is used to identify pipelines or equipment where this is the case. Red indicates asbestos lagging. Green indicates non-asbestos. If there is no color coding, always assume it is asbestos until proven otherwise. Wherever there's known asbestos contamination, there will always be hazard warnings advising you. The site is regulated by COSH regulations, that's Control of Substances Hazardous to Health. Under this, you must provide a COSH assessment for any hazardous, including flammable liquids and gases you bring on site. The arrangements for the use, storage and removal of hazardous substances must be discussed with your site host before they are brought to site. The materials safety data sheet must be made available and the appropriate health and safety requirements must be identified and put in place. All hazardous material must be labelled and stored correctly. Remember, it's your responsibility to keep the area you are working in clean, tidy and safe. When you have finished working, ensure the area is free of tripping hazards and you have disposed of all of your waste correctly. Skips are located at various locations around the site. Never dispose of any materials, oils, solvents, cement, sand, etc. into the site drainage system or into the ground. If you're unsure of how to dispose of any waste, please discuss with your site host. If you observe any leaks or pools, always assume the leak is a process fluid and avoid any contact with the liquid. Alert a Vopak employee and seek advice. In the event of contamination, seek assistance immediately. Remove the contaminated clothing and wash the affected part of your body in the safety shower. You may be administered further first aid or be asked to attend hospital as a further precaution. In the event of an incident, injury, no matter how minor, accident or dangerous situation, raise the alarm and contact your site host immediately via your radio. Trained personnel are always present on site to administer first aid. All accidents must be recorded in the accident book kept at security. Emergency numbers can be found at the back of your permit. For a fire, dial 199. For medical, dial 456. When it's answered, give your name, location, and the nature of the emergency. Await further instructions. Never tackle a fire yourself unless you have been trained. Raise the alarm immediately. Fires can spread quickly and produce toxic fumes. Now we'll discuss what to do in the event of an emergency. There are two types of alarms used on site: local alarms and the major incident alarm. Local alarms are continuous. This means there's been an incident in the area. When you hear the alarm, switch off any tools or equipment. Make the area safe. Go straight to the muster point for the area. Contact your site host to let them know where you are and await further instructions. Different areas have different sounding alarms, so before you sign in for an area, ensure you know the local alarm and the local muster points. Please note, after the alarm has stopped, all permits will have to be reauthorized before work can start again. The second alarm is site-wide. This is an intermittent 3 seconds on and 3 seconds off alarm. It means a major incident has occurred which could affect the whole site. This could include the release of toxic fumes. When you hear this alarm, calmly proceed to the nearest designated building. Once inside, close all doors and windows. Turn off any air conditioning or extractors. Keep clear of doors and windows in case there's any blast. Listen for the major incident tannoy, which will tell you what action to take. The alarm is tested on the last Friday of every month at 1300 hours. If you hear it at any other time, get into a designated building quickly. Vopak operates a near-miss reporting system. If you have an accident or near-miss, please report it. If you observe an unsafe act or condition or a dangerous situation, please report it. We actively encourage reporting, as this helps us learn and prevent further incidents. Finally, we regularly audit permits and conduct safety observation rounds to ensure compliance with site regulations. It's everyone's responsibility to look after each other's health and safety and care for the environment. We operate safely, or we don't operate at all. You'll now be given a test, and once you've passed, you'll be issued with a pass from security. You must keep this with you at all times. Thank you for listening, and remember, be careful out there.